What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, presented by Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. You're dealing with Monday, looking outside right now, you're thinking, man, I don't want to do another work week. It's May. It's summer. I've done my work. Pure Options is here for you tonight. Make you forget your life, forget your work, forget the Pistons lottery pick situation, forget the Tigers bats, forget whatever it is, or just enhance your enjoyment. Go to pureoptions.com, the location nearest you, and if you swing on by and you let them know Couch and the Rube sent you, and you spent $50 or more, you get a free eighth of ProGrow, terrific in-house brand. Also, our Monday afternoon show presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. As we dig into summer, as you start to think about the beach, vacations, you think pack swimsuit, pack whatever it is, you're going to need a Muskox. You need the evening wear is a Muskox on the beach, at a campsite when it cools down. You want to be outside on the back patio, whatever it might be. Go to gomuskox.com and check out their offers, including spring lighter flannel offerings and the promo code HOFF, H-O-F-F, for $15 off your flannel purchase for Couch and the Rube listeners. Again, gomuskox.com. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Holy catfish!
Goodness gracious!
Hey, buddy. What's up, man? Did your mom have a good Mother's Day yesterday?
She did. She did. Yep.
What do you do for mom?
Brought her over. Played. We did like a cookout, grilled a little bit.
Cool.
You know, and yeah, she seemed. It was. What was weird is we made burgers and like pasta salad.
Nice.
And we made these like onions that were supposed to be caramelized, but they're more just burnt. She loved them. Like she would have just eaten a bowl of onions. I don't know what it was.
Does your mom gives her opinion to you, right? Like
yes,
the honest one.
Yes,
that's what I like about her. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So if she didn't like the onions, she'd tell you.
100%. It would have been. It would. Yes. She would say it for sure. And it's one of my things that I don't necessarily love about my mom, and I love everything
Mother's
about my
Day?
mom. Well, no,
that you have to celebrate it. I know you hate holidays.
No, I like Mother's Day. She cannot hide how she feels about like a dish at a restaurant. If she doesn't love something,
that.
And
wait, does she tell the waitress?
Yeah, it's awkward. It's a little like, or she just sort of, or that doesn't sound good. Even when she asks about a dish, it's like, oh, Ma, just. So my rule for her in retirement is, I don't want to ever see you complain about a food. What I want you to do is you order 2 meals wherever we go. You're not going to. She's not like me. She has food discipline. She doesn't need, like I would order 2 and then eat 2. You order the one you're intrigued about, and then you order the safe dish. And if you don't like it, instead of like not being able to enjoy your meal, you just put it aside and you eat the other thing. I want her to have ordered 2 meals.
In today's economy, though, I mean, geez, if you're buying, sure, but
she's okay in that scenario. She'll be fine. She can. It's
I
worth
know.
it.
Just older people, they're just kind of chintzy with money sometimes, so they want to buy 2 meals. Hey, Mom, I have a solution for you. Just buy half the menu, okay, and then you eat what you want and then leave.
I think it
Graham,
sounds.
That's a great idea.
I think it sounds like a good. I think it sounds like a really good plan. So anyway,
I'm glad she had a great day.
She did. We played a little cornhole, a little tribute to Jason Nick.
Yeah, that's Treats Lastrosio, dude. She's good after a couple drinks or some Pure Options.
We didn't.
Deadly.
We did not almost get in a fight or argument or anything of that nature. So it was.
Well, good for you, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, there's
not all of us can do that.
I beat her, by the way, 21-3.
Nice.
For anybody who was wondering,
no mercy
on Mom. So that's the way
it oppressed her a little bit.
The way it's got to be. I think we have a fun show here.
I hope so.
Because one of the things I love about this time of year, when there isn't like an obvious game to react to, and I love those years too. I love the passion of a Monday after an MSU football game that people are fired up about, good or bad. Mm-hmm. But I also love the eclectic nature of the takes that we get on a mid-May Monday. It makes it interesting.
Helpful, yeah.
It makes it fun. A lot of different stuff. Some good MSU football and basketball stuff, including some news of a possible transfer, big man, that I'll get into on one of my takes, and then I think one of the takes got in
Is it your first take?
No, that'll be my third take. So you're gonna have to stick around.
Not a promising player then.
I don't know.
Deduce.
I'm just saying, don't give up your Pure Options membership at this point. That's all I'm saying.
Never.
That would be it. So,
right.
So the other news that's happened is somehow between the time the show started and I was tweeting things out, I can't find my file with all the Twitter questions and everything in it. So I'm going to need Hoff to get myself set.
Some hot takes, you mean?
Yeah. Everything I have written down for my own hot takes.
Okay.
And for everybody else's and some other stuff is somehow missing on my screen. If you could just
give me some Hoff.
Give me some Hoff. Thank you.
I am the passenger.
Unbelievable.
I ride through the city's backside. I see the stars come out of the sky. Yeah, the bright in the hollow sky. It looks so good tonight.
All right.
All right, I got it. Come on. It got lost for a second.
That happens.
I was about to panic. I mean, we could make it work, but
that would be a good show, though. We just take the hot takes, what we have in front of us, notes and whatever, and just chuck them over our shoulder.
And just do it off the cuff.
Might need to wait till football starts, but
we've done some off the cuff shows.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
All right. Do you want to dig into your hot take?
Yeah,
your first hot take
we're going to tease this possible recruit here. All right.
Buenos tardes.
Might as well talk about this team.
Detroit Tigers gambling update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
All right, first of all, the Motor City jerseys are ass. And I don't know why people just can't say that. Like McCoskey's on Twitter yesterday. They're good-hearted and stuff, and I just, they're all right. They're not for me. Like, all right, you can be old and just don't like a jersey. They're garbage. I'm not a fan of them. Do you hear any young people that are excited about them? I really don't care. I know they're not our full-time jersey and all that, but it's just when you're playing so poorly like they did yesterday and to watch them in those stupid-ass uniforms, it does kind of mean something to me. But you know what? If you want to put them in these jerseys for this year, because I know we're going to fucking suck, so go ahead and wear them the rest of the year for all I care. Tork hit a home run yesterday after being down 8-0. I mean, do we get excited about that, Graham? Miami Marlins in town. They are complete ass. Do we sit there and try to pounce? I tried gambling on this team. Tarek Skubal, 7 Ks. Riley Green, 2 bases. I couldn't even hit that. So I don't even know if this team, if you can gamble on them anymore.
The Tigers have a problem.
But if it's not the Marlins, I don't know when we can do it, right?
Part of the problem is a lot of people can't see their games on Bally's unless you live in Ovid or you have the app.
You're not missing much,
and
we'll say.
They're unbettable. Like you try to take the under when the Skubal's pitching, and all of a sudden the Tigers score 7 runs. You're like, what the hell happened there?
Sure. Pure options, though.
Yeah. So when the team becomes unbettable, they lose one level of interest. When they're not on TV, they lose another level of interest. Fewer people are going to pay attention and watch.
Is Chris Ilitch panicking? Does he care? Can he come out with a statement? Fans, I understand that you're going without our team on television, most of you, right? I mean, anything from these mother effers?
It would be good.
Scott Harris, I mean, we're sitting there trying to get something from Scott. Who cares? We're talking about ownership because he's in charge, Chris Ilitch.
It would be good for them to make a statement. The jersey stuff, as long as they're only wearing it occasionally, right?
I guess.
Yeah,
I know, but I'm saying if you're in your 40s or in your 50s or whatever, it's okay to say you dislike them, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well,
I know, but it seems like people are scared to say it.
Say it, because the Tigers have classic uniforms. Don't fuck with them.
Exactly.
When you have classic, I've said this before. It's about Michigan State's got good helmets, good uniforms, classic uniforms.
It's one of your better takes.
Don't mess with it. That's where the nostalgia and a lot of the emotion comes from. When you see those uniforms, when people see the Old English D on a helmet and a shirt and a jersey, and they think, yeah, I'm watching my Tigers.
And young people, I guarantee you, I know it. You want to do some young stuff now, and old people are ass. I get that, but when you get our age, you want to reminisce and see the old English D with the white jersey. I guarantee you're gonna love it when you get older.
And the Old English tee is just a better jersey. If young people don't like it, young people have bad taste, and that says something about them. Like, this is nothing. Like, if you prefer the Motor City, whatever the fuck they are. Sorry, I'm swearing a lot today. I will not swear anymore. But if you prefer this alternative crud, then
that's more offensive than swearing. Crud.
That's an issue of taste. That's an issue of.
But look at what we wore 25 years ago in the early 2000s. We looked like moron. We wore baggy shit. It looked terrible. I understand, right? Yeah. So you're gonna look back and go, man, these Motor City jerseys. By the way, I don't know anyone that actually likes these jerseys. If you're like, oh, shut up, Rube. Like,
nobody is not getting paid by the Tigers to say it and act all happy. That's what it is. And yeah,
even I'm just saying, fans or whatever's going on. But
you're talking to the guy who openly rooted for Michigan State to lose every game when they wore their neons, and will continue to. I mean, I
thought you didn't root either way, though.
I will root against neons. I will root against the neons because I think if things go poorly enough, they'll bury them for good. All right, my first hot take: the Pistons get the 5th pick in the NBA draft and the draft lottery, and everybody is mad and disheartened because they lost a franchise record number of games.
The NBA's rigged.
It's not even about the player. Most people cannot name the top 5 projected picks in this draft because it's supposed to be the worst draft in a long, long time. Yet, and where the frustration falls is 3 times now they have fallen to 5, right? And a lot of what people are feeling right now is residual resentment from last season and missing out on Wembanyama, right? Mm-hmm. Because Wemby was like, that was a generational dude, and they had a real shot at him, or so it felt based on where they finished in the standings. But this is the system. Nobody got screwed. You get a 14% chance at number 1 if you're the worst team, and that's it. That's it. So much more of this is luck. This is not the old lottery. And yes, the Pistons got some bad luck in becoming this bad when the lottery changed. It's sort of like the Lions finally getting good in free agency hitting in the early 90s, or the Lions being horrible and drafting Stafford and Calvin Johnson before the rookie salary scale and never getting that advantage. You don't want to be bad at the wrong time, and yes, they have. But this system was put in place, both the play-in games that allow more teams to be in the hunt, and the draft lottery, which gives you just as good a chance to be like the 4th or 5th pick than it does the first pick, to encourage teams to build and not to tank. And the Pistons had a chance. Like, they had an absolute chance to do this. They shouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. This is resentment towards last year. If you're the Pistons, you cannot let this prevent the build. And, and also don't.
But the system is flawed.
Is it?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, because you're god awful, tanking aside, and you can't break free. You can't even get into the top 3 when you have one of the worst records. The past 2 years, it's just frustrating.
There's luck. I mean, if you're going to fire Troy Weaver, you need to fire Popovich, because Popovich didn't even get Wembanyama a point guard. They had one guy they lucked into who's great, and the rest of their team is not only ass, but they didn't even get the right pieces to help him develop. Don't get me wrong. What Popovich has done is as bad as Weaver. One guy got lucky, and in fact, I'd argue worse. He has a better track record, better resume. He's won a ton. I mean, obviously, it deserves more leeway. But part of this is absolutely luck. But you have to also, how you build a team these days is a little different. And the number 5 pick is still an asset. It's going to be a decent asset, along with Jaden Ivey and maybe somebody else, everybody, maybe Caden Nassar.
But to trade for what? This is going to be one of the worst drafts.
No, but people will still want that 5th pick, because what's going to happen is a lot of teams are going to be in cap trouble, and getting a picks are assets, and a pretty high pick that they can flip, that you can, they can send an expensive player and the Pistons have space to take them. That's one of the advantages to having a pretty young team. Other than paying Cade this summer, you've got a minute with some of these young guys. You're going to trade one of them an Ivy. Like, you've got some flexibility here to take on a little bit of money for a couple years, pay somebody. One of the things we're learning in the new NBA, look what Houston did last year, where they seem to overpay a couple guys, but they're not doing it on long-term deals. They're doing it while their younger guys are still on rookie deals. Anyway, this is not a death sentence. It's frustrating because of last year. This is still resentment from last year. And what I would tell Pistons fans is, for years everybody tries to get up for the draft. Like college football's offseason, just freaking ignore it. Ignore it until the draft is over. That's all you can do. It is frustrating.
Just ignore everything, right? Because we talked about the Lions before they started having success and how I was dead inside. I got to say, Graham, I'm dead inside with Detroit, with the Pistons.
Oh,
I
100%.
didn't know the announcement for the lottery selections was yesterday. I don't know if I really even cared. I saw that we did get the 5th pick. I was looking at mock drafts. Now, I have been enjoying the NBA playoffs, but the regular season's off limits for me, especially with the Pistons. They're gonna be terrible for some time here. But I just don't know. I would like to know if there is a fan base anymore. If anyone really cares deep down. Do you really care who the Pistons draft or
yes,
the upcoming?
There's a fan base, but what they've lost is, and I've heard young people talk about this. What they've lost is a generation because they haven't been good in now like 16 years.
Yeah.
So it's too late for, and you cannot let that happen in any organization. You cannot let more than 4 or 5 years pass without being relevant because you lose generations, and that's unforgivable. You need to. But all you can do at this point is try to make sure you pick up the next group and you become fun for them. You're going to have a problem that there are a lot of people right now between the ages of, say, 23 and 15 that are going to hit the bulk of their spending years, and you're not going to be somebody they care about. And there's nothing you can do to get that back. There's nothing you can do. You can try to win and stuff, but they've moved on. They've picked teams. They picked players. They root differently. You screwed that up. What you have to do now is try not to lose another generation. And look, what sucks is that if you get Wemby and Cade together, you get to be great for a decade. You know what I mean? Like and you could build around that, and they were that close to it if the balls fell their way.
And are we sure about Cade as well? I mean, is this guy going to be?
I think he's going to be a really good player. If you
had package this 5 with Cade, maybe something.
No. Cade's
because
the one guy.
Because the NBA is in a weird spot because a lot of these guys who are making the $55 million a year. I mean, how many people really want to go out and watch these guys?
Well, one of the big problems they have right now, and Cade is because of the rookie max deal, they should pay him. But you only get to have 2 of these guys. So, and some of these guys are going to struggle to understand that. And so you can't overpay for a guy who's not a number 1 or a number 2 on a championship team. You cannot afford to max money on those guys. So you got to be blunt. It's what I say about Jared Goff, and people disagree with me, but you got to be blunt at some point and say, are you somebody who elevates us to the point that we can pay you like a true number 1, true top 5 quarterback? If not, you got to understand your place.
But do you think it will be the end of like the big 3 with guys like
those
Durant,
are done. Those are done.
Just coming in and ruining your franchise? And you can say that about LeBron too.
Big 3s are done. They'll never win another championship because you can't build enough around him. You cannot build enough around
paying Bradley Beal $55 million a year.
It would have to be something that was built organically through the draft, so you had young players together. You'll never be able to sign a big 3 again.
And thankfully, the owners are making so much money they could give a shit if Kawhi Leonard only plays 40 games. This was part of my second hot take with the NBA. Also, with watching the playoffs, I know I'm old guy, but to watch guys like Luka and the refs, and it's just fucking endless. These guys sit there and they have to talk they're flailing up and down. And I know it's happened throughout all the years I've watched the NBA. I love basketball. I do. But to watch these guys and Luka, it's just like, man,
Luka's
he's such
extreme.
a great dude. Come on, though. But a lot of these guys, it isn't just Luka. It's every time you can grab their ear. And watching Wally Zerbiak today on Dan Patrick's show, he was saying, like, I never really talked to the refs because I can understand in their predicament, because I hate refs for the most part. But I can understand if you're just constantly getting yelled at by these guys for every single call. Every call. It has to just be exhausting. And to not make these guys full-time, they're
NBA refs are full-time.
Are we really worried about the players, not only the players, but the statisticians with the gambling side as well? It's just like, man, if you're the refs, I would absolutely despise these NBA guys if I were a ref. I would hate them so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way to ever fix it would be to really invest in
tee them up.
No, it's hard to know what's real and what's not. What I would do is I would look at situations where guys complained and they didn't actually get fouled, and I would just it would be a post-mortem. You would add all these things up, and over the course of time, it would be you would get suspended for a game if you did like 15 of these. You know what I mean?
No, but these guys already don't play enough.
Right,
You're going to suspend Luka.
That's a good point. I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, at least we're trying to spitball ideas.
Yeah. All right. This Sunday is sometimes one of the best Sundays in sports. The final day of the Premier League season. A year ago, ton at stake. I had the 3 TVs going, including multiple teams playing to stave off relegation. This year's drama is definitely less, and chances are the only thing left to decide will be the actual title, the championship, which is cool, which isn't nothing. I mean, that doesn't often happen on the final day. Arsenal and Manchester City, will likely both have a chance, and neither is Man City has a game Tuesday against Tottenham, but both then finish Sunday. So
soccer's over forever.
No.
Oh.
There's Euros this summer. There's lots of stuff. But for the maximum drama, what you want to root for to enjoy this Sunday is for Tottenham to tie Man City on Tuesday afternoon. Tottenham to tie Man City. Because if that happens, both teams will be sitting on 86 points going into the final day. 11 a.m. Sunday games kicking off. Every game kicks off at the same time. Arsenal host Everton. Man City hosts West Ham. With Arsenal in that case would be up 3 goals on goal differential, both on 86 points. And so you'd be watching Man City not only have to win, but score 3 more goals than Arsenal in a different game. So they would be trying to pile up 5 or 6 or 7 goals on West Ham. And to watch that sort of thing happen in 2 different cities would be extremely cool drama, a lot of fun. So if you're a neutral, just looking for the maximum amount of drama, Tottenham to tie Man City on Tuesday. Otherwise, Man City is likely to win it by beating Tottenham on Sunday. So anyway, that's just one thing I wanted to put out there.
Is that what you're gambling on this weekend, or?
I have some futures bets, so I don't know if I'll be betting. What's your third hot take?
Do you know who the player Great Osabar is?
I don't.
College basketball.
I don't.
Jonathan Giavoni from Draft Express tweeted out, breaking news. Great Osabar, the top available player in the transfer portal, has committed to Washington, and he's going to make $2 million. Highest paid known player. This is my favorite part. I don't know if there was an agent involved in this, but it says highest paid known player in college basketball, in parentheses, $2 million. Is Great Osabar setting the trend? I mean, you don't even know who he is, Graham. You cover college basketball for Michigan State. I mean, what are we doing here? Now, is someone going to sit there and go, well, if he's the highest paid, you need to up it a little bit?
For other people, you mean?
Yeah, because I have never heard of this gentleman either, Great Osabar.
No, I mean,
$2 million?
Yeah.
At Washington. What's going on there?
Yeah,
they have a good NIL base there. What's going on?
They must, and that's the way you can get yourself to be competitive if you're not a program that has reputation and.
But isn't that kind of scary? A guy you don't know and he's getting $2 million. It's just going to go crazy now.
Well, this will lead into my third and final take, and the one I teased and probably should have led with, but I wanted to do Premier League and Pistons. What the hell? Michigan State basketball may finally have a transfer portal center.
Yes. Let's go.
Yeah.
Give me a name.
The name is Seisman Zappala. Zappala. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
Seisman?
Did Izzo make up a fucking dude to get this 5 out of the way?
7-footer out of Longwood University is a low major. Was a Utah State transfer. He's got 1 year left. It's like a 10-point, 6-rebound guy. And he is, look, and I don't know.
Tom, you genius.
I don't know 100%. By the time this show is over, he may have committed to MSU. I don't know what he's going to decide, but I do know MSU's interest is real.
Izzo is a legend, dude.
And so this is truly an insurance pickup. And in one sense, this is something I said that had to be done, right? Because without Sissoko, just from a sheer numbers standpoint, you can look at their bigs and you're one ankle sprain from being in real trouble. But
Seisman.
What this shows, their interest in him, purely their interest in him, which is legit, shows that Izzo is good with what he has. Needs depth, but in terms of planning to roll with this, because this is a don't upset the apple cart recruitment. And it confirms what I think we thought Izzo was thinking was the best path, or the most reasonable and realistic one, given the climate of guys getting $2 million or guys getting 1.2 at Indiana to be centers. And this is a don't upset the apple cart get. Look, this is not, to me. He's using all his scholarships, sure. This is probably while a 6-figure deal is not breaking the bank, you are not upsetting the apple cart. The question is whether the apple cart was something that deserved.
Dude, I want to push
not
that
to be
apple
upset.
cart over.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. He keeps apple cart.
If this is if this comes through, this is Izzo putting in his chips on Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, and Xavier Booker. And maybe there are I do not think this guy is a starter for MSU next year. He's a 7-footer. He's a big dude. He's like 250, 7-footer. He's not, I think he'll be a guy who can contribute to some degree. I don't, whether help them rebound and defend and all that stuff.
I look forward to Dominic's Twitter questions after a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Seisman. Dude, I hope Izzo's sitting there just wearing nothing but his gold jacket, just laughing his ass off. I'm not really, I don't want a 5, but here's a guy named Seisman that averaged 9 points a game.
Well, no, I think what this is, look, Izzo is not looking to screw you over. He's not looking to lose intentionally. This is not Izzo. Izzo is not reading Twitter every day and saying, you know what, screw Dominic, screw Eric, screw all of y'all. We are going to put together a team that I like, and
maybe just a little part of him that does that.
But is not capable of winning a title just because I don't want you to enjoy a title. Right? He thinks what he has is the right group to go with. Now, or there were realistic limitations within NIL and other things that he could not, I'll have to figure that out. I don't know that was there or not. But I do think this is telling of Izzo putting his chips on his guys, and maybe he's got a plan with Booker and Kohler and Cooper that'll absolutely work. But he is, to a large degree, he can be adding this guy, but he is largely running it back at the post. Now, he did go in and add a really intriguing prospect on the wing, and Frankie Fiddler, another 1-year guy, just like Zappella. And so you've got a 1-year big man who comes in, who gives you some insurance, does not somebody who will threaten Carson Cooper, will not threaten. I guarantee you right now, Jackson Kohler is not looking at this kid going, I can't beat that kid out. Because if you can't beat this kid out, you can't play at the Big Ten level. This kid was a good, slightly above average player at the low major level last year. At Utah State, was a role player off the bench pretty much for 3 years.
Cool.
And so that's what you got. And it's sort of a Carson Cooper pickup, but more seasoned in that sense. And you're getting a guy that was not. Now other teams wanted him, but nobody as big as Michigan State. And I'd love to have a hot take right now that just said, this is a crazy asinine way of going about things, but it is very clear
it's up there.
Well, it is if these guys don't work out. If these guys don't work out, or maybe it's at a point where the finances of it, bringing in a $1.2 million center just isn't in the cards.
Seisman, that's his name.
So Seisman. So Seisman, he's sizable, and from Longwood University. And
don't steal that, Jack.
No,
Seisman is sizable.
Yeah. Anyway,
the pun king.
That appears to be something that is on the way for Michigan State basketball.
I'm glad you saved that for number 3, though.
I don't think it'll change Michigan State. It does. Where it is smart though is to have you definitely need to get somebody else in there with a little seasoning and size to get you through any potential injury or anything like that. But what Izzo is saying right here is he is saying Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, Xavier Booker in some formation will be good enough and were the right move to get you through a Big Ten season as your big guys. And so what that means is also, I think it means you've got to change your offense a little bit and use the advantage. Now, Cooper may be the guy who, because he's close to a 7-footer, who puts on enough strength and size just to be a really good defensive stalwart and rebounder. That could happen. But I think the other guys, Kohler and Booker, present some opportunities offensively to change what you're doing. And if you're not bringing in somebody who's kind of a traditional big man with a resume that's a starting Power 5 level guy, then you've got to be open to changing what you're doing and running different types of offense to those guys and using Booker to your advantage. Put some immense talent. You keep giggling over there. I don't know.
Sorry, because I just love Izzo right now.
Okay.
It just makes me laugh that he's going to go with this, and I'm looking forward to all the hot takes and Twitter questions.
It's going to
that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, I'm glad this happened right before the show.
I'm glad you saved it for third.
All right. Before we get into our listener hot takes, including one on our friend Seisman, there is we'd asked Eric Schultz had to send in his top 25 Izzo players of all time, which he disagrees with me on some guys. And I'm going to read it real quick and see what you think if anything jumps out at you, and then I'll tell you where his disagreements were. He goes 1 Mateen Cleaves, 2 Cassius Winston, 3 Denzel Valentine, 4 Morris Peterson, 5 Draymond Green. Sorry, these are mine. Sorry. I'm really bad at this. Let me pull up.
What's the name of the show?
Jesus. What are you eating over there?
Sorry, I'm trying to eat before I read.
Jesus, yeah, I was going to say.
Sorry, I can play some off.
We can start the show like a half hour later.
I look through my window so bright. I see the stars come out tonight. I see the bright.
All right. Here are Eric's top 25. Mateen Cleaves, Cassius Winston, Morris Peterson 3, then Draymond Green ahead of Denzel Valentine, Kalen Lucas, Charlie Bell, Paul Davis, Drew Neitzel, Maurice Agar, 10, Adrian Payne, Allen Anderson, then Xavier Tillman, who I have much higher, Raymar Morgan, who I have much lower, Shannon Brown, Miles Bridges, Andre Hudson, Gary Harris, Antonio Smith, Goran Sutan, Tyson Walker, Brandon Dawson, Jason Richardson, Chris Hill, and then Travis Trice. And the biggest things is he has Morris Peterson at 3 ahead of Denzel Valentine, which I found interesting. And I wonder how many people feel that way. He had Draymond at 4 ahead of Denzel. I have Mateen Cleaves, Cassius Winston, Denzel, Morris Peterson, then Draymond. Kalen Lucas 3 spots higher and ahead of Charlie Bell than I have, and ahead of Tillman. That's not controversial. I probably have Lucas a little low. I think of Tillman as a much more consequential player for what he was to those Cassius Winston teams. And I think as we see the big man spot the last 4 years, I think I have Tillman at 7 in the Izzo era, much further in the overall. I think he's like further down, like 16 in the overall list of top 50. Anyway, I just thought these were interesting. He has Allen Anderson a lot higher than I do. A lot of people give me crap for that. And no Keith Appling. I have Appling 21 among the Izzo top 25. But these were good. And you know, I think this summer is going to be a year to revisit this whole list and try to get some input and listen to people's arguments. And I'm open to them. And we'll put together maybe a list of like the revised top 50. Yeah, maybe not on the show, but for the LSJ. The revised top 50 with some input from some other people. And I want to hear your argument about why you have certain people, certain places. Like he thinks Denzel Valentine's the loss to Middle Tennessee State is, you know, one of those really, really worst loss of, I think he called it the worst loss of Izzo's tenure and a lasting legacy to what was the best individual season he'd ever seen. So, you know, there's an argument. Like how you value different moments and legacy and all that stuff absolutely makes a difference. All right, you ready to – are you in a spot now where you're finished with your lunch and we can dig into these hot takes? All right.
Yeah. Dominic first. Number 1, Graham, sorry I had to sick my friend on you, referencing Facebook Live versus love protocol when it comes to fur babies. As an avid listener of the show, she knows this isn't your first misstep with it. It's just business, never personal. All right. 2, I really want to trash Jake Boss and fight Couch back on his take. Unfortunately, I just don't give enough of a fuck or know enough about the situation. But for the record, I know just deep down he's probably Wojcicki and Wojcicki as fuck and deserves the boot. You can have this one, Graham. And 3, Lynn Henning said on Ebling last week that people say Chris Ilitch won't spend are wrong, and that when it's time to spend, Ilitch will spend. Lynn eulogized my dad a couple years ago, and yet somehow hearing this was actually more depressing.
Jesus.
Bonus. Semi-trucks both going 67 mile per hour while occupying both lanes on the expressway should be punishable by lethal injection. I agree.
It's definitely a pain.
What's number 1 here? What are we doing?
First of all, if we're going to redo roads, what I would do is put separate roads for semi-trucks because in the winter it's just dangerous. They shouldn't be on the roads.
Construction all year round, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, number 1 is I previously when anything happens with his dog or somebody else's dog, sometimes I'll just like it. And if I don't love it, Dominic gets very upset. And one of his friends who's a listener to the show also chimed in and said, you know, have you no shame, or what have you done here, Graham? You know, I forget the exact terminology, but I fixed it and I loved it.
Gotcha.
The Lynn Henning thing, that's that is deep. Yeah, look, we will see on Illich. I have very little hope with the man, but he could change our minds. But he's going to have to do it at this point. Like you get to a point where you no longer get the benefit of the doubt, and Chris Illich is beyond that point. And so if Chris Illich
except
for
Lynn Henning, who defends him apparently.
Yeah, but so if it's going to happen, Chris Illich is going to have to prove it. And I would love to next year be having this conversation with you and I, and they've got like 3 legitimate expensive bats in their lineup, and the Tigers are like 12 games over 500, and they're hitting the hell out of the ball. And Illich spent, an extra $120 million a year in annual salaries, and we're going, shit. I guess he was willing. That'd be great. Don't get me wrong. We want that. Seeing is believing.
Yeah. ULAOMG next. Izzo is only going after low major players because of his portal morals. Who the fuck is Seisman Zapala?
I don't think they're portal morals, but it certainly is a different recruitment with these guys. And one of the things about low major guys who've won, and he's had success with this, Brandon Wood at Valparaiso, obviously Brent Forbes at Cleveland State, Tyson Walker. I'm leaving out at least one, but it is a different NIL. Like when guys are leaving Arizona to go to Indiana and they're 7 feet tall, they're looking for a payday is what they're looking for. And I do think that is a hard thing for, and Izzo doesn't have anybody on his roster making 1.2. And so if that's the cost, like, can you bring in somebody who's making more than Xavier Booker and not upset everybody? Is that, and what I also think he is trying to do is avoid creating a culture where, because you can bring in, guys are going to make different amounts, and you can bring in guys who are making more than other guys, but creating a culture where people on your roster are thinking, well, next year I got to try and go get mine, or I got to dip my toe into the portal and make sure I get a lot more. He is trying to avoid that for the sake of the program long term. Whether that's worthy or not, we'll find out. And the 5 spot this year will be a real test of not only his ability to evaluate his players, but also the faith of the fan base in him based on how it works out. And Izzo deserves more faith than Chris Illich because he has a better track record than Chris Illich going back a ways. But when you come to the 5 spot, where it's been 4 straight years, where there hasn't been movement in the portal, it is also a seeing is believing situation. And he's chosen to go this way. And if it works out, if he's dead on after miscalculating last year, no Michigan State fan is going to complain. But the guy he just picked up, while perhaps an important depth piece, from everything I've read and seen and the highlights I've watched and just looking at his numbers, I think is just and only that, a guy who comes in and can give you some minutes or get you through something if you have an injury.
And get yelled at. Zruff next. Number 1, Graham gets Jackson Kohler on for an interview and asks him what he is working on to get better and what he's doing to continue improving defending at the 5. These answers spark excitement in the fan base and calms the negativity around adding a portal center. 2, seeing Fears playing is healing my MSU soul. We are not excited enough about him. And bonus, the Jinx on HBO is incredible.
Have you watched The Jinx?
I have not. Who's in it?
I can't even find HBO because there's this thing called Max now, and I keep thinking it's Cinemax. I don't even know what it's called anymore. It's bad branding by HBO.
Yeah. They were HBO Max, right, for a while.
Right. And they somehow thought getting rid of the HBO was smart. Like, I mean, I don't really understand that. That's like if Michael Jordan changed his name and left out Michael Jordan and just changed it to, like, Bob.
Wow, you think a lot of HBO.
I just think it was a hell of a brand, and anybody our age thinks of Cinemax
Bob
as
Jordan.
Cinemax. Yeah, I mean it's I don't really understand.
Seisman.
I do like the name Seisman. It's a good name. It's actually
going to be great.
It's actually a good name. The Jeremy Fears, I do think people watching him have bounce and dunk again and play. I think people were excited about him last year, and he was starting to come on a little bit. It was against low major competition, but what that January and February would have been is one of those things we'll never know.
JD next. The Detroit Pistons died so the Detroit Lions could thrive. In a world where NFL is king, that's a sacrifice we can all live with. And Bake Take, this show peaked with Couch forgetting the show's name and immediately following it up with a Pure Options ad read, the last show.
That's how you do a transition, man. If you're going to do it live, read. You got to
Hell
recover
yeah.
strong. Yeah.
If you forget the name, just immediately go to a live read.
And then go to a Pure Options live read.
And hopefully the name of the show's on the live read.
Because there are times that, Pure Options can help you forget a show or forget whatever you want to forget in your life.
Yeah, every show. It's awesome. I appreciate it, Pure Options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan Pearlstein. The number 5 pick in 3 straight draft lotteries is the curse of Darko. But can it be a curse if they won a championship the same year they drafted him, though?
Well, the frustrating thing about the Darko thing is what might have been the next era, right?
Sure. Well, yeah. Sure.
Because, they still through 2008 were like a conference championship. They should have won. They should have been able to defend it. If they defended in 2005, we'd think that era even differently. And if they had like Carmelo or Dwayne Wade leading that group as it aged and sort of
this is a July topic, but we've always talked
Yeah.
about the fact that would Carmelo have fit in with the veterans and would we have won the 2004 I don't know.
I think he would have. That said,
dude, 2004 rookie like Carmelo though.
Well, that's the problem.
I don't know.
Right. One of the things that made that team, they could switch the back end with Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace and Tayshaun Prince defensively was as good as it got. Like that was phenomenal.
D Wade is the guy I always put in. I don't even put Carmelo in there. If they would have gotten D Wade, that guy would have bought in completely.
Yeah.
But Rich K next. Absolutely brutal that the 14-win Pistons are picking behind 2 teams that won 41 and 36 games. The draft lottery is utter bullshit. It should be replaced immediately with a tournament between all the teams that missed the playoffs, with the winner getting the first pick, runner-up getting the second, and so on. The way tanking is not rewarded, and teams could try to win as many games as possible in the regular season, which would be much better for fans, no?
Tanking isn't rewarded, though. It really isn't right now. And because the odds just don't – you don't get better odds, really, if you're a –
And would guys want to play in a tournament to get players that are possibly going to replace
them?
you?
Yeah.
Why would they care?
It wouldn't work. I don't have a problem with the way it is now. It just sucks that the Pistons are at their ultimate low right now. At some point, the beauty of this would be a year from now if the Pistons make the right moves in the offseason and take a big step. And say they win 34 games, but they don't make the postseason or anything. And then all of a sudden, they get the number 1 or 2 pick in a good draft a year from now, despite that's what you want. That's the idea is, at some point that comes back on you to help you on your way up, but it doesn't just go to the teams that are perpetually shit at the bottom.
Adam next. The 5th pick is actually good for the Pistons. Less guaranteed money invested in a player that would be a mid-first round in most drafts. There's also a chance they package it with one of their young guys for a vet that needs a change of scenery.
Yeah, I mean, the 5th pick, this particular year where there's not really a real difference maker at 1. I mean, last year was a good draft. And I still think the Pistons got a good player in Asar Thompson who I think is defensively, you got to build the right teams around these guys, but defensively potentially a really good piece. Now, is Brandon Miller would have been better? Yeah. 100%. It would have been great if they at least got the 3 pick and got Brandon Miller. They got a little screwed last year, but I don't think, and they need to move this pick. They don't need to use it anyway, so I don't think the consequences are going to be that severe. And if I were the Pistons, I wouldn't move next year's pick, but because you can't do 2 years in a row. But the pick 2 years from now, I would package that. You need to get better, and you need to get some guys to, build around your young pieces with. And I think Ivy's the guy's got to move.
Pookie Bear next. The Pistons as a franchise are fucking dead. They'd be better off trading everyone and just starting over. Cade, Ivy, Durant, Thompson, all can go. There is no future for this franchise. Only way this gets better is if Tom Gores sells or dies, and I'm hoping for the latter.
Pookie Bear. Tell me how you really feel. You don't want this, though, and I'm going to explain why. Because we've just seen how hard it is to get the number 1 pick when you're tanking and drafting high. You don't want another generation. You don't want another 5 or 6 years to go by. Cade Cunningham is, to me, and from what I've seen from him, a legitimate top 2 guy on a very, very good title contending team. Like if you put Cade Cunningham around the Joker, or Cade Cunningham is a guy who I think can take you places. You want him as part of your team. You want to lead, and I also. But I do think Duran is defensively may have some issues that are something you're not going to get over. Ivy, it doesn't look like he and Cade worked well together. Like there are things that need to be done, but you're not completely starting over, and you got to use the assets you have, and you have some okay assets. You haven't maximized it. You should have more assets, but you didn't maximize certain veterans into turning them into draft picks. So you use the draft picks you have, use the asset you have, and I think there's still the ability to add some real quality this offseason, but don't make that Tobias Harris. That's what I would say.
So what you're saying is the Pistons just need to trade for Jokic because Cade and Jokic would be unstoppable.
I want to know what Booker cost in Phoenix. I want to know.
Why? You think Booker's going to come in here and be excited about playing on this Pistons franchise right now?
Grew up in Grand Rapids. I don't know.
Who gives
Grew
a
up a
shit?
Pistons fan. Love Chauncey Billups. I don't know. But I'm just saying, it's not about what's excited. It's about what does Ishbia and do the Suns want to get out of. I mean, he's saying all the right things, but they're screwed for the next decade. Like the Pistons, you want to talk about a team that will win a title before the Suns right now, the way it's constructed. The Pistons are it.
C-Dubs 91. The Pistons deserve the 5th pick for the consistent incompetence. Bake Take, the National Weather Service should have sent an alert to everyone about their Aurora Borealis on Friday night. When something happens so infrequently, people should know.
I'm here, like, we get all these weather updates when there's a freaking tornado, but when the northern lights are visible from your backyard, they ought to tell us. Like, that is really cool. Like,
I think they did. Did you watch any of the local newscasts?
It should be on the phone. It should buzz. Like, even my wife was, luckily we couldn't see anything from our, could you see from your yard?
No.
Okay. No. We couldn't see from ours, and which I was happy about, because even, like, when I started seeing the social media posts, I went out and looked, and Elizabeth had already gone to bed, and I'm not supposed to wake her up for anything. Like, if there's a tornado warning, do not wake her up. She would rather die in the tornado than be woken up. But she did tell me, in this case, this was an exception. So this seems to me like something that the weather folks should get on and alert people like it's an emergency.
All right. Chris Eastlick, I thought my life peaked being associated with James Edwards' MFer drop, but when Jason added me to the Graham 69 Club, it's only down from here, baby. Bonus. If that weren't enough, this occurred during the one time my wife was with me listening to the pod in the car. I could sense the head turn in the passenger seat next to me as it happened. Bonus. It's all out of love, Chris. Bonus. It was followed up with someone calls themselves Fart Soup. So what you're saying is your wife is a fan of the show now.
Yeah. So we go from 69 to Fart Soup. And
did you have to explain to her what the 69ing with Graham meant?
Yeah.
That's what the real question.
Yeah, what was the follow-up conversations?
About Fart Soup?
Yeah. Appreciate you, Chris. Appreciate you being part of the show. Welcome to the 69 Club.
And speaking of Fart Soup, it is Fart Soup. People that shit themselves during a marathon and then post it on social media should be banned forever.
Did somebody do that? That's disgusting. That's awful.
Fully Fart Soup, I agree. Wait, so they just took a picture of what? Like their legs and their ass just all shit covered?
Yeah, that's
Dude,
not
you should
cool.
be banned from anywhere. Yes, you're right. Professor next. Tough to say, but not being able to watch the Tigers is hurting my interest. I rarely sit and watch an entire game, but it's always on in the background, and I would flip over in key moments. I can't be alone. And Bake Take, Pringles are ass. Lay's Stacks version is significantly superior.
I do like Pringles.
I do.
Yeah.
Have you tried the Lay's Stacks?
I have not. Yeah.
Will you try them before the next show and maybe
give a report back? Yeah, I mean, I could do that.
Delicious.
Yeah, really good.
To Uper, Ishbia's growing wealth and influence on MSU basketball has coincided with the program's baffling roster construction and mediocrity. I would say this is simply a coincidence, but after seeing what he did to the Phoenix Suns, I have to wonder if he might actually be a cause of it.
I don't think he has control over the decisions. It's just some of the funds. I mean, he put aside some money, from what I understand, because obviously he's with the Suns now, and that formerly SD4L, and now I guess it's the Spartan Nation NIL is to help fund what they're doing. I don't think he had any say. I mean, Ishbia is not on the phone with Izzo saying, I'd really like you to add a piece here or not add a piece here. I just don't.
Hey, Matt, we need $50K for Seisman. Can you wire that over? I mean, what? This is unbelievable. What a show.
Yeah, I look.
I just can't believe Izzo. That's what he's doing. That's so awesome.
I do believe Ishbia has new owner syndrome with the Suns, where you get in, you're like, give me Kevin Durant, whatever it takes.
I think he
has
has
do it.
realtor syndrome, where he's that guy all the time with his other company,
and it doesn't work.
You bring that to the NBA, and it kind of loses steam with some, Yeah. David Zondi next. Number 1, every pro sports league is a better product when Detroit has a competitive pro team. The NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball should do whatever is necessary to make sure Detroit's teams are among the best. 2, my wife thinks the NBA draft lottery system is ass.
It's not fun. But you remember a few years ago when they actually got Cade, that was a pretty big deal.
That shit was fun then.
Yeah, it was fun then.
We got Wemby last year. It would have been fun.
Yeah,
it just sucks when you get 5 and you suck.
Yeah, no, it's like if you win any lottery, it's fun if you win it. It's less fun.
But
if you
I think
don't.
it's just that it just feels. I know that you think the Pistons are better. They have better future than any franchise. But it just feels when you play so shitty throughout the season, get goofed on, 28-game losing streak, and then you get the 5th pick.
Well,
it just blows.
The old system, you couldn't fall further than 4, I believe, and now you can fall a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, it does seem
the lottery.
Yeah, it does seem like you can fall a little too far. I would say that's I think the
David Stern's rolling over in his grave.
That's probably the issue. But yeah, look, I wouldn't say other pro leagues should do whatever it's necessary to make sure Detroit's among the best. That's not really their job. But
he's right.
But yeah, Detroit is a good sports town, and Detroit is not an area you want to. Detroit's somewhere you want to be relevant. The thing is, if you look at the NBA right now, it's not like they're favoring massive markets. I mean, Minnesota and Denver are playing in what might be a de facto championship, and then the other Oklahoma City's in the other, and then who won it a couple years ago was I'm blanking on it now. Somebody else that wasn't very big, Milwaukee. So. It's not like this is a league that doesn't give every market a chance right now. The Pistons have just been poorly managed.
All right, Matt C. up next. I was fired up about Graham's hottest take ever, that Dan Lefevre was a better quarterback than Connor Cook. But then I remembered journalism is dead, and you're all just entertainers now. So good job stirring the pot.
Appreciate you, Dancy. So I was responding to somebody that said that Connor Cook might have been the best quarterback from Michigan ever, from the Michigan colleges. And because it's one of these interesting things, when you say that out loud, you're like, well, that can't be the case.
He was good, though, man.
He was the best. He's the best at Michigan State ever, at least in terms of my rankings that I did in 2015, and that hasn't changed. I am slightly above Kirk Cousins. And when you start to look at, like, Michigan's top guys, there are a number of guys who are in the realms. You could go back to the 80s when they ran the veer and they didn't put up many stats, and Harbaugh had some numbers. You could go, you look at Gerbach's numbers. Chad Henne had some really good years in the early 2000s that I think are probably most comparable. But a lot of the guys you think weren't better than Cook. And Dan Lefevre is one of those guys that, I just think and I understand that he played in the MAC, and look, I growing up used to be this shit on the MAC guy too. Then I covered the league when I lived in Kalamazoo, by the way, and you start to realize that at certain positions, the talent level is just not that different. And Dan Lefevre played at Michigan State during the Connor Cook era instead. Michigan State would have won a whole lot of games. Dan Lefevre played on a lot of Michigan's great teams. Michigan would have won just as much, if not more. He was a great college quarterback. Won the MAC Player of the Year, was 3-time first-team all-conference, was not really built for the pros, but neither was Connor Cook. Like, Lefevre was a great college player.
Move over Ron Banks.
Well, no.
Graham's got a new guy.
Don't go that far. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying he's 100% better than Cook, but I think my recollection, and I watched a lot of Dan Lefevre in that stage because I was covering the MAC, I would take him over Cook, having covered them both just
Did you
slightly.
cover the MAC at one point in your life?
I did cover the MAC. And just to point out that there was a year in 2010, 11, I forget what it was, and the last time I looked at this, where in the Super Bowl, in the game that was played, there were 15 players from the MAC in that game, 15 from the Big Ten and 18 from the SEC. It's not like the MAC doesn't send a lot of pros. There are certain positions where they're less likely to have NFL guys. And I understand Lefevre wasn't an NFL guy, more than a cup of tea guy. But same with Connor Cook. It doesn't always translate. Great college player. Would have been just as great in the Big Ten. And, I just think that's a fair argument, a fair statement to make.
Mojo Jojo next. Baked, knowing that your wife is now pregnant and then your future progeny, is that right? Progeny? May have been conceived on 420 is wild. Bonus, as competitive as Izzo is, his inability to turn out high-quality NBA players and takes swings in the portal at non-Midwest recruits, puts him behind Coach K and others.
Yeah, no, by the way, if you conceive on 420, you can there's got to be a discount code for that for Pure Options. We'll talk to Pure Options. Yeah. This child, I would like 30% off. This child was conceived on 420. Yeah. And it's anyway, to the bonus here, as competitive as Izzo is, his inability to turn out high-quality NBA players and take swings in the portal at non-Midwest recruits puts him behind Krzyzewski and others.
Don't coach my team.
A lot of people are behind Krzyzewski and others. Izzo has never been, he has turned out a number of really good NBA players. But I don't think anybody's claiming he's ahead of Coach K. He is historically, though. He is historically.
No, Tom is behind me.
He's historically in that next tier. But what he's done at MSU right now in terms of guys who are coaching, he's in the top tier of guys who are left. Maybe you'd say Bill Self is up there. If Izzo went to Kansas originally instead of building his own thing at Michigan State, would it be a little different? Who knows? But yeah, it's a fair argument to say there's a gap between Krzyzewski and Izzo.
Stupidest Shardy next. Graham saying he would take the Pistons' future over a lot of teams was stupid. They have one player who can be an all-star in the next few years, and he's always hurt. Why not fire Troy Weaver? Graham says someone else will just mess it up. That's what Troy has done for years.
It's very possible Troy Weaver will be fired when they finally figure out who's going to be their president of basketball operations. So I think he's a good talent evaluator in the draft. I like some of his picks there, and if he would stay in that sort of role where he wasn't constructing the whole roster, but his evaluation of certain guys was there, I think he has value. I think he was really good in Oklahoma City with the early stages of what they put together. Like I think Troy Weaver's got a lot of talent. I just don't think he's good at certain aspects of this, and it shouldn't be running the whole organization. That's my biggest beef on this. Would you rather be the Bulls? Would you rather be the Suns? Tell me their path. I can see a path for the Pistons. Now, they may screw it up. They may not get there, but there is a path.
But wouldn't you rather have Ishbia as the owner of your favorite franchise than Tom Gores? I mean,
I don't know.
So I think you have to put that in the equation as ownership. I know that you're promoting the Pistons being better than most other franchises.
Ishbia bought the franchise and made a really shitty trade right out of the gate.
But I'm saying when he's gung-ho to spend, gung-ho to get things going.
Gores spends money. Gores isn't Chris Illich.
He spends it how, though? Monty Williams, where he's going to end up paying him $100 million just to go away.
Salary cap. They're not. I mean, they're willing to spend. He's trying to build a different way. So now that they have a chance to, like they did it with the Stan Van Gundy way, where they were sort of what the Bulls are now, and now they're trying to do it a different way. I don't have as much problem with Gores as a lot of people do.
All right, David Jackson, Minnesota T-Wolves are kaput. It's all over, but the shouting. Bake take: the Tigers' alternate uniforms are an embarrassment. They are ass. Having the greatest home uniform in baseball is all we have right now, and Illich is fucking that up.
It's pretty amazing when you have one great thing going. If you're going to do an alternative uniform, like if you're going to do something that looks ridiculous like a button down, at least maybe you do something like a muskox flannel in Detroit, made in Detroit. Like to me, I don't know, muskox flannels would be a way to go. Just a flannel over the white, No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to muskox. But these uniforms suck. You're not wrong, David. And I don't understand when you have a great uniform why you need to have
you
alternates.
can switch it up here and there, sure.
But I mean, if you're going to, how often are they wearing these?
Who cares? I mean, but if you're going to trot it out and show me and have to watch it for multiple games, then I'm going to give you my opinion on it. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Jay Riemenschneider next. Last week, the uproar from MSU was Jaden Mangum visiting Michigan. Now news comes from that Michigan linebacker Bridgman is visiting MSU, and from what I've seen, it's all good. Circumstances don't matter, right? You can never consider the rival, but it seems to all of a sudden be okay here. Loyalty is long gone. Since loyalty is gone, I have no problem with it.
So a couple things. One, when Van Sumeren, who came from Michigan, the older one, to Michigan State, like if they're low-impact players, nobody's ever going to matter. It's when somebody who you think's a part of your program and sounded invested leaves. And the rivalry thing, though, is rivalries are a big part of college sports. They're a big part of what drives college sports and the emotion behind them. And I've said this before with, and I may get into this week in a column, just players have to understand that the passion and emotion behind some of the criticism that they're receiving is the only reason there's a market for them. The fact that people are offended when you leave one rival to go to another, then is that taking offense, that passion, that anger is what creates the market and the money that allows you to get paid, that allows this whole thing to work. So you got to deal with it. Look, if loyalty is gone, and it may be, and it may just be, one of the things I would encourage college football to try to find is a much more English football model where, you listen to guys who play for multiple clubs, they still have love for a player, or the player will still have love for that club after they've left sometimes. And sometimes a club will still have love for a player, and there's a contract, and they leave on their own, whatever. You can get to a point where guys can leave and you can still feel okay about somebody. It's the way they leave right now. It's the fact there is no contract. It's the way when they leave when it doesn't seem like they have to, and they jump in this thing called the portal, and it feels like they're exiting and they're tearing themselves away from something you love. It's creating all this angst. We'll get to something new soon in the sport, but until we're there, everything is going to bring about raw emotions. And when it's MSU and Michigan, and it's a player that people valued, people are going to feel a certain way.
Joshy up next. MSU Hoops is going to be priced out of competition if the likes of AJ Hoggard is getting paid $800,000 and a portal center is getting $2 million. No wonder why Izzo hasn't tried to get a center. He can't afford one.
He can't afford $2 million unless, you better be freaking Akeem Olajuwon.
Get Peter Secchia out there and start donating. It's happening.
Let's get the dead guys up.
Let's get him a second natty. What are we doing?
Hoggard, $800K. If that's true, and I saw one report on Twitter. I don't know if that's at all true or not. But
go where?
But Hoggard is a was it Vanderbilt? Somebody said I don't. Hoggard is definitely a $500K guy. This is the business right now, and he's a point guard, a veteran point guard, and for everything you don't like about AJ Hoggard, he definitely is going to have value on the open market, and it'll be interesting to see. MSU early on was a certain have in the NIL space, and I think as long as Izzo's there, they will be to a large degree. But some of these numbers are getting up there at some of these places, and if you're willing to pay AJ Hoggard $800K, I know MSU certainly wouldn't.
Red Hot Aiden Childs Peppers next. The main concern about this MSU basketball team should be point guard, not center. And Bake Take, we need Jason to drop a Kendrick-style diss track directed at Eddie Provenzano.
I would listen.
Yeah,
I would definitely.
I don't know if I could rap. Maybe I could have Z-Dog do it, but
the point guard position, basically saying that Jeremy Fears, we don't know if he'll be 100%. We don't know what he'll develop into. Again, there is some of that. I do think that the floor at the point guard position, because of Trey Holloman, who you at least know is solid, is sound, you could say it's not. You're worried about the ceiling. Is Jeremy Fears really going to be the player that MSU needs him to be to take that next jump? That's fair, but I think the floor is high enough because of you've got a guy in Trey Holloman.
But see, you understand though not bringing in another point guard because that would screw. Even if you don't think, obviously, if you think Fears can't play the whole season, but it looks like he's making really good progress, right?
And you have a true freshman in Jace Richardson coming in, so you've got the point guard spot is not something you'd mess with.
Yeah. Sam the Man next. I actually admire Izzo's loyalty to his players. He should definitely use the portal more often to fill holes on the roster, but the bulk of the criticism should be directed towards his recent roster building, talent evaluation of high school prospects, and player development.
No, that's fair in terms of, and it has been a weird stretch. Some of these guys were recruited before the NIL era, so it's a different type of recruiting. Some of them who were just finished went through the COVID era, which I do think set certain guys back, like Rocket Watts. I still think Rocket Watts had a chance with the right summer and for a different track and to be a really good player at Michigan State if COVID hadn't hit. But yeah, no, there is criticism to be had there. He has not really since Tillman brought in a five that developed into a player who was a tremendous advantage. And so even if, Julius Marble had, stayed for a little while or whatever, Marcus Bingham never really developed. And There has not been a guy, and sometimes guys just can't develop. They are what they are, and you can only get them to a certain point. But in terms of recruiting and finding guys who are real impact players, it's been a few years. Although I would argue that Xavier Booker is sort of the next guy. I mean, he's 7 feet tall. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. He's got a ton of skill, and how you use him next year will say a lot. There are a lot of teams in college basketball that would give you their 5 to have Xavier Booker. The problem I think most people have is the idea that MSU should have been able to have both.
Andrew Gauthier up next. Number 1, Graham's People Forward columns, like the Mother's Day column or the COVID impact on local restaurants column, are far superior to his sports analysis columns.
I don't know whether to be happy or offended by that.
2, Rory is fucking back. Glad I got my PGA bet in after the Zurich, while odds were still longer. And 3, the Pistons drafting at 5 again just feels like we'll be in NBA purgatory forever. This team is awful and as far away from a championship as any team in the league with this owner, front office, and staff.
Yeah, I mean, you do need to upgrade the front office. There's no question. And I would argue you need to upgrade the head coaching position, and then you need to make some moves and use, we've said it before, you need to use the assets you have available. I think Jaden Ivey, the number 5 pick, maybe something else, maybe a second first-round pick. There are decent assets to bring in a good player, but you got to bring in the right player. And if you're going to sign somebody in the offseason, it can't just be Tobias Harris. And maybe he is a fit, and maybe he helps improve you, gives you, if it's a reasonable contract, I can deal with it. But, watch what he was for Philly this year. It just wasn't that good.
But won't you get, 10 cents on the dollar for that 5th pick, though, just because it's people don't – this draft might be really bad, so
people still love
the same value.
Yeah, no, it's true. It wouldn't be the same as a normal 5, but I still think you'd get there's value in it because there are good players in this draft. What there is not are elite players. So a team that's in a better spot than the Pistons, it's probably got too much money over the cap, but it's looking to get a complementary piece that can come in and contribute. You can get guys that can contribute to your team next year. What they don't have is Wembanyama. They don't have Brandon Miller. They don't have that. It doesn't appear, at least.
The Keith Ski next. Each team in college football should play 1 game a year without any media timeouts or delays. And Bake Take, Zeke the Wonder Dog at Munn, Zeke on ice.
I don't know how well a dog would do on ice trying to catch Frisbees.
So the first take wasn't baked either?
Well,
I mean, 1 game a year without media timeouts. I'm sorry.
Keith Ski is a pure options fan,
sure,
through and through.
I respect that.
Yeah, no. The problem with playing 1 college football game without media timeouts or delays is teams get into rhythms, and as much as fans would love it, I do think it would be it would change the game quite a bit. How you call plays in, just your whole pacing of everything would be tricky for a lot of teams. But I don't hate the idea.
Some dude, a couch in the Rube appreciation take. I was thinking about dude running the 25K, Kurt Wisniewski. I have personally developed a sort of Pavlovian reaction to this podcast relative to my workouts. Sometimes I don't feel like lifting, but if I know there's a new pod, I get a little jacked. That or heavy metal, so it's kind of absurd. Anyway, what makes your show great is the content and thoughts from all the angles on shit that I'm generally very interested in. It's really mentally stimulating, even if I know that Couch is going to say the same shit over and over again. I'm not sure if any other pods use these formats, but it just works so perfectly for the cult you've created. Good day.
Appreciate you, some dude. Yeah, no, we...
Congrats, some dude.
The
gift card.
No, we appreciate it. Well, yeah, one of the things.
So heavy metal or this show for workouts. All right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I can see you. I do wonder about I would rather listen to Rocky than this podcast if I'm running a marathon.
Although the movie.
Well, no, the theme
soundtrack?
songs. Yeah, soundtrack. Yeah, give me some Eye of a Tiger, some that sort of stuff. Now, the real thing to any sort of exercise is passing time with something that's enjoyable. And so if this is that for you, then that makes me...
Do tell us about the exercise, Graham.
Sorry. We appreciate some dude.
B-Low show next. The defense will be MSU's strength next year in football. Jackson Kohler will be all Big Ten. Tiger Woods makes the cut this weekend.
B-Low is feeling it on every level. Pure options, definitely loaded up, and clearly wearing a muskox flannel because you got to feel comfortable. You got to feel good about yourself. You got to be confident and to be at this place. MSU's defense will be the strength. Jackson Kohler, all Big Ten. Tiger Woods makes the cut this weekend. Of all these hot takes, What is the most and least likely to be the case of these three?
Jackson Kohler will be all Big Ten. Sorry, Jeff. Don't.
Is
come
most
at me.
or least?
It's
least.
the least,
Okay.
in my opinion. I got to go. Number one will be MSU's. No, Tiger Woods makes the cut,
Yeah.
and then sorry.
Now, so the Kohler, I mean, there is all Big Ten. There are three teams, and there's honorable mentions. So that's not. So if Jackson Kohler wound up being your starting center and wound up being a 12.7 rebound guy, you could make the honorable mention.
But we're talking all Big Ten team, isn't there like four of them? So
yeah. So
all right, so that won't be that hard then. I thought we were talking like first team or something.
yeah, no, it's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary Lipka next. I think at one time this spring, Michigan State football was at 71 scholarship players for the fall. Now I think they're at about 77. It's starting to feel a little better.
Yeah, I mean, they're adding in some guys. I don't know how good they're going to be. I've largely, thank God I'm not covering that on a day-to-day basis. I've largely tuned out until, and I shouldn't say completely tuned out. But in terms of the day-to-day transactions of, hey, this linebacker, this defensive tackle is coming in. We'll see.
Kevin from Rochester Hills. Tiger will lose the PGA Championship in a playoff or not make the cut. Baked. Torkelson will end up with 35 home runs this season.
Whew, that is baked because he's at one right now.
Yeah.
One on Mother's Day.
I didn't even see it. Did he? You know how they do the dugout celebration with the pizza thing?
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, when I saw that he hit one in a blowout, did they still do that?
I don't think you can do it when you're losing in a blowout.
All that. I think you have to do it no matter what if you hit a dinger.
If it's your first dinger, I
don't know.
I think, you got at this point, you don't do it if you're Torkelson until you hit a dinger that really is consequential.
Yeah.
And you need a second dinger to come quickly. Other people are going to forget about this dinger real fast.
TK next. If you have the worst record as often as the Pistons, you should have to sell your team. And Baked, the MSU band should add a string section during basketball games for when Frankie Fiddler makes big plays.
I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea. That's kind of fun. You put a little fiddle together or something like that.
Put the string section next to you guys down there watching the game.
Yeah, well, it's the band's already there. I wouldn't mind the fiddles. Yeah, it'd be great.
A fiddler just going around you guys while you're trying to write.
Yeah.
Spartan Dog 97, not currently baked, but still a baked take. Sheila Hamp Ford should trick that dipshit Gores into selling her the Pistons for like $100. Then call Mark Davis and offer the Pistons for Max Crosby and a 5th-round draft pick. So did you think of that when you were like smoking weed or on Pure Options, or you just had that take, but it's baked to you? Because he said not currently baked, but still baked.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty baked.
But that's sort of what happens to Teresa all the time, right? She comes up with these ideas and
1,000%.
Yeah.
Varsity softball dad next. Best take. Graham's Lansing Promise would be as successful as the Kalamazoo Promise, which is to say dreadfully underused. And Bake Take, if a running app used Graham's voice as an inspirational prompt, I'd be America's greatest slightly overweight middle-aged suburban 5K runner.
Go varsity softball dad. Good luck today and stay hydrated.
Have some donuts afterward.
And run.
Yeah, refuel.
Jog if you want. You can jog if you want.
Refuel with groovy donuts.
Who's that you're doing?
Is that me?
Oh,
I'm doing me, right?
I just got to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, who else would that be? I don't know. It would be like Coach. I would like to hear Coach K as like the
no,
or Michigan man.
Tyler,
hold on. That went real quick on his Lansing Promise.
Okay,
but so his point with the Kalamazoo Promise, which is a fully funded scholarship that if you graduate Kalamazoo Public Schools, they pay for your tuition to go to any public school in Michigan, and I think 15 private schools are on board as well. It's the best promise in the country. It started in 2006. Every other promise, like Lansing Promise, that exists now is sort of jumped on the name to sound as cool, but it doesn't quite deliver like that. The Lansing Promise I would like to see it deliver like that. And while the Kalamazoo Promise has not reached, is not changed as many the lives of as many people as I had hoped. Like there are a lot of people, it turns out, who come from family backgrounds that, don't care about them a lot or aren't as educated or whatever and don't prioritize schooling even when it's available to them, and that's frustrating. the big difference is the Kalamazoo Promise came along before school choice really crippled a lot of districts like Lansing and Kalamazoo, and so it's kept enrollment up. It's kept the business. It's helped the business community. It's helped the housing. In Lansing, that would be the effect. The effect would be you would get a lot of people who had left the district, I think, coming back, or people who live in the city and send their kids elsewhere coming back, and that would be needed. And so I think we're just at a different place. So there would be an initial value that would be really important.
Tyler, next. For the 1,000th show, you should resurface some hot clips of the past with Twitter poll votes and call them the Grammys.
Yeah. Well, first we'd have to figure out.
We have to find the clips.
We'd have to figure out which is actually our 1,000th show.
Actually, I think I know now.
Do you?
I think that we're 12 shows behind.
Are we 12 shows off?
I think so.
Okay, so in our 112th show will be our 1,000th and 12th show will be our 1,000th show.
But we have to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like in Couch in the Rube fashion. That's how our show should reach 1,000 when it's really not true yet.
Right.
When we just don't get there. After the 1,000th show,
we
just quit.
We almost went back 170 shows recently. You put the date in. It was 170 shows off, and I fixed it. So we almost went backwards.
that was already in here.
Oh, really? Okay.
As to save it anyway. It's
okay, it was something
fourth
else.
Wall boring shit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Neurotic Pants. Number 1, it's way too easy to underestimate the reach of the Spartan Nation. The green and white isn't as high profile as some other mega universities just down the road, but its reach is still considerable. Wear a Spartan baseball cap or sweatshirt anywhere in the United States, and it's very likely to turn heads at other sporting events, cafes, or even at the grocery store when someone tells you about their son or daughter who is attending or wants to attend MSU. If the game is now made up of haves and have-nots, MSU is still a have. And bonus, under Jonathan Smith, MSU will have at least a competent game calling and time management, and will not lose to Rutgers or Indiana. Moreover, with the next 3 years, MSU will beat Michigan.
To your first point in the have and have-nots, though, I guarantee you around the country there are lots of people who are Iowa. My father-in-law or my wife's stepdad is an Iowa guy, and everywhere we go, he's wearing his Hawkeyes hat. Even in Paris, she did not want him to wear his Hawkeyes hat. That was the number one rule. You cannot wear the Hawkeyes hat. He wore the Hawkeyes hat all the time. When you're a man in your mid-70s, you're going to do what you want to do.
What kind of rule is that?
She just wanted us all to. She made me get some new clothes, too. She wanted us
Is
to
that
all.
your wife you're talking about?
Yeah. She wanted us all to look a little more Parisian, and anyway, but we would run into people everywhere we go. We run into people, and within 7 seconds, he runs into somebody who knows Iowa and is from Iowa. The point is, Iowa has serious NIL problems. They're a have to some degree, but they really don't have. It's not about just alumni base. It's about sort of the big whales of donors you got to have. And that story on my father-in-law, by the way, is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue, or story not worth telling. A great place for trivia on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Get your team together. Great way to try out Midtown Brewing Company and also experience some competition and some fun. Or a great place after work, any night of the week, a date night on the weekends. Go to midtownbrewing.net or go to Midtown Brewing Company on Facebook to learn more about them.
Just for context, your stepdad, were you guys going out to eat at a restaurant and Elizabeth wanted him to not wear it, or the whole trip?
The whole trip. So what her basic point was,
and he said no way.
When we were packing, well, he agreed and then just wound up wearing it a lot.
Awesome.
And this was her stepdad. Yeah, well, I don't know. Is it your stepdad if her stepdad and her mom got married when she was already 20? What is that? Just your mom's husband? I don't know how that counts.
I mean, it's technically a stepdad, yeah.
But he didn't raise her.
20,
she was already an adult.
Right. It's like with T's kids, I do not consider them, I'm not a stepdad to them.
Right.
Because they're in their 20s. I mean, no way, right?
Well, yeah.
I think you have to, in your teenage years, I think that's when, but I mean, you've been around them that long.
It's a good question. Yeah. So, she just calls them her mom and Tom. But for you, it would ruin your tax credit through Whitmer, which is your whole point that you should get a double tax credit.
Not mine.
If you don't have kids,
I still should.
Yeah, I'm not.
I should be celebrated for not having any children.
I'm not arguing.
At least once a month, I should be celebrated.
You know what? She did not. By the way, she did not. I did take one, even though it was the middle of the summer and 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. I did take one muskox flannel to Paris, and she was okay with it because I look good. She knows I look good. Like, you can go to
make
Paris.
Her sound like she's a tyrant.
You can go to Paris and pull off a muskox flannel. I'll tell you that right now. And that's muskox can by the lake, on the patio in Paris. Muskox flannels. Again, go muskox.com. Use the promo code HOFF for $15 off your flannel purchase. You too can look good in Paris.
Couch on fire. Number 1, the Pistons can't even win the draft lottery. Red Wings have the same problem. Fixed? ? 2, a lot of MSU defensive line additions, subtractions. Hope it leads to better play. And 3, I'm not a McElroy fan, but holy cow, went by Shoffley like he blew an engine.
So McElroy had a good weekend, you're saying?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
He shot like a 6 under final round. Yeah, Shoffley just choked.
We'll have to figure out whether, with the PGA this week, right? It's this week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we have Harry on and maybe do we'll figure some stuff out because that would be fun to do some picks.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll chat after the show. I've got some conflicts this week we need to work around. So,
okay. Yeah. Spartan Sugar next. On behalf of all Gunners, please bet against Spurs Tuesday, Graham. That will guarantee their victory. It hurts to want them to win, trust me, but it's for the greater good. You owe us after a season of flaming turd Premier League bet.
It's not been a great year. I'll be honest. Crystal Palace I've been on, and that's helped lately. But I've
got to keep betting though.
Yeah, no.
We'll get out of it.
We'll be better next year. I apologize. Live bets are just killing me. Like, everything I get on live turns to shit right now.
Are you chasing,
Mexican stuff? I've chased a little bit. Yeah, that's not helped.
Yeah.
But even not, I keep reading things wrong early in games. And
I'm pretty proud of myself with these single game parlays. I'm doing nothing more than plus like 250 around there. I've had success with that. Not as much fun, but yeah. It's nice to win every once in a while. Original Dark Mantonio next. Graham, I hate to bring this up again, but you always say MSU is in Michigan's head. You are correct. Every school is always in their rival's head. But regarding these two, if it's not even remotely close as to which school fixates more on any and everything about their rival.
It's true that MSU is more fixated on Michigan than the other way, but I will also say this, especially when it comes to football, and one school is in the lead, so to speak, and one school is going through great times, it is easy to be above board. It is easy to be above the fray. When Michigan State was rolling, they loved to put Michigan's face in it a little bit, and they were dominating that rivalry in the middle of the D'Antonio era. But you can also pretend not to care as much about your rival when you're on top. When you're not on top, your rival drives you freaking batshit. Now, the fact that Michigan has 2 football rivals and then one rival and everything else, Ohio State is only a rival in one thing in football. People pretend it is in other things. It is not. It is not a rival in anything but football, which means its rivalry is condensed, but intense nonetheless. But yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong. It dates back to the fact that Michigan did not want Michigan State in the Big Ten. There is reasons that Michigan State fans, dating forever, deep-seated in their core reasons that Michigan State fans feel a certain way about Michigan, and that dynamic has always been there.
Hans Jurgen next. Number 1, release my censored hot takes and questions. 2, I need a weed whacker string that won't break apart when cutting around fences, but also don't want to cut off my leg. And 3, I have no idea if Jonathan Smith or any 2024 NCAA football coach will do well in the future. The portal is chaos.
Yeah, it is. It is impossible to know. We will only find out what. But I would say the beginning to understand of the Jonathan Smith era, whether it's going to work or not, is competence this year, some promising moments this year, having a moment or two this year, and then you really start to see it next year. And then the year after, they ought to be really competitive. That's the only timeline I can give at this point.
All right, Jake Hawkins, number 1, the NBA is a motherfucking joke. Pistons are pure ass and got the 5th pick again. Luckily, I read yesterday that the new president of basketball operations will have the ability to fire Troy Weaver. Fingers crossed that happens. And 2, I always thought disc golf was for people who were slackers and got stoned too much. Turns out it's a really fun game to play. Me, my mom, youngest sister, and her boyfriend played 9 holes of it after Mother's Day lunch yesterday. And 3, I know there's a ton of road construction projects going on and lots of alternate routes to take for now, but it's what happens when you neglect infrastructure and don't invest in it over time. Big Gretch says she wanted to fix the damn roads. This is part of filling that promise.
Yeah, I was hoping it wouldn't be all at once, but I get it.
Yeah, it still sucks.
I get it. We got to do it. Are you a disc golf guy?
I am a stoner and a slacker, but I've never played. I would for sure.
I like it. I struggle with. I used to play. I was on my college's ultimate frisbee team for a little bit back in 2000 at Columbia College, Chicago.
Ultimate in quotes.
But I don't, for whatever reason, because I've damaged my shoulder to the point the open arm frisbee way of throwing hurts like hell. So I don't like disc golf as much as I used to. It sucks. I don't know. Something's wrong.
So
with
did you tried it?
I've tried it. I played a few times. Yeah, it's fun to hang out and do it. I just can't throw like I used to and would want to.
Protect your guy to get this thing over with. Baseball has a problem. On Mother's Day, I could watch the UFL, MLS, Premier League, college baseball, and softball, even professional women's volleyball and Australian rules football, but not a single baseball game.
That is an issue.
Bonus. You need to format that video version better so I can get clips.
Well,
how do we do that?
Yeah, we could do clips. But here's the problem with clips, and I'll just say this. A lot of people do clips, and I think it's okay if it promotes your show and brings new people in. But what clips don't do is help your advertisers all that much. So I will just point that out.
Unless the clip is just you doing a live read.
Well, then that's true. Then we could do a Pure Options live read. We could do Midtown Brewing Company live read. We could do a Muskox live read. Thanks to all three, of course. Go to gomuskox.com today. If you're thinking about the summer, it's no time to stop thinking about a flannel. Look good, feel good in a Muskox flannel. Gomuskox.com. Promo code HOFF for $15 off. Appreciate Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com today. Find the location nearest you. Lansing, east side of the state, west side of the state, up in Mount Pleasant. Chances are you're pretty close to a Pure Options. You'll love the way they treat you. You'll love the service. You'll love their advice and their quality cannabis. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company, of course, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. We'll figure out the rest of the week show schedule and be back and hopefully do a show better than this one. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch to the roof.